37 minutes. That's all the time Meredith Hawthorne gave me to get out before she bulldozed my cabin to the ground. 37 minutes, a countdown ticking red on her fancy phone. While 15 so-called HOA security guards lined up shoulder to shoulder blocking me from my own front door. Behind them, that yellow Caterpillar bulldozer coughed black diesel smoke into the pine-scented air right where my mother used to hang a tire swing. That smell all mixed up old diesel morning mist. The memory of pine sap and breakfast coffee had still burned into my head. Meredith stepped out of her pearl-white Bentley like she was making her entrance at a movie premiere. Blazer so purple it looked like a bruised platinum hair pulled back so tight, I swear it hurt to look at her. Her smile could cut glass. She had diamonds in her ears. Little rainbows sparkled on her neck with every move. Time's ticking, Mr. Nobody, she called, tapping her diamond watch. Probably cost more than this whole road. Land sold, my associates are waiting. In 40 minutes, this is the site of Michigan's first private equestrian club. The kind of place where $100,000 changes hands every time someone sneezes, you know. Those guards, some older, some barely out of college, shifted on their feet. A few looked like they wanted to say something, but nobody did. All that muscle, all that security, and still you could see the nerves because deep down, even they knew this was wrong. One guard, a kid couldn't have been more than 22, kept glancing at me at the cabin, at his boots. You could see it in his eyes, watching a man about to lose everything, which in Meredith's world was exactly what she expected to happen. Except what she didn't know was that 3 hours earlier at 4:17 a.m., my entire life had changed with a single phone call. It was Natalie Brooks' lawyer for Theodore Sterling, the shipping tycoon who owned half the Michigan coastline and employed 12,000 people. Her voice crackled with exhaustion. "Mr. Coleman, I need to see you. Immediately. It's about your inheritance." Inheritance. That word hit me like a steel beam. My mom raised me alone working 3 jobs. Dad was just a ghost, never named, never seen. And now somehow I was in Theodore Sterling's will. Not just in it, but the sole heir to his empire. The same empire where Meredith Hawthorne, the woman trying to bulldoze my cabin, worked as chief operating officer. She had no idea she was threatening her new boss. But hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to the freak welding accident 9 weeks ago that flipped my whole world inside out. Because before I tell you how a stranger left me a $2.7 billion inheritance and handed me the keys to destroy the most corrupt HOA in Michigan, I need your help. If you've ever had someone try to steal what's yours, smash that like button, share your story in the comments, because I swear these property tyrants are everywhere. Back to that night graveyard shift at Sterling Shipyard's welding beams on a new container ship, the Northern Horizon. The pay was all right, $28 an hour, time and a half overtime, which I needed for the property taxes on my mom's old cabin. The one Meredith was after. October 3rd, the fog so thick you could lose your own boot shadows and yellow safety lights dancing on wet steel. I was up on a catwalk when I heard the crack, a sound no welder wants to hear, metal letting go where it shouldn't. I looked up. 3 tons of steel beam broke loose from the crane, dropping fast. Below it, an old man in a suit, no hard hat, no vest, reading a clipboard by flashlight. At 2:43 a.m., training kicked in. I dropped the torch dove at him, knocked us both out of the way, just as that beam smashed the deck behind us. The crash rattled the ship like thunder. The old guy groaned, blood on his head arm twisted. I wrapped my welding jacket around the gash, told him help was coming. He focused on my face, whispered, "You have her eyes." Margaret's eyes. That was my mom's name. Before I could process, he was out cold. Paramedics showed up, no AB negative blood, 30 minutes to the hospital. "I'm O negative, I told them. Universal donor." They ran a line from my arm to his right there on deck while alarms blared. I watched my blood flow into a stranger who somehow knew my mother's name. When I woke up in the hospital, I found out I'd saved Theodore Sterling. Yeah, that Theodore Sterling, the man who owned my shipyard. My mortgage half the county, enough politicians to rename a town. When they let me see him, he looked rough but sharp-eyed, like a hawk that just lost a fight. Bryce Coleman. He said Margaret's boy. Turns out my mom was his secretary back in '88. He asked if she'd ever talked about her time in Toledo. She hadn't. She never talked about that year. Then he asked about the cabin at Riverside Lake. How he knew about that, I still didn't know. We talked an hour about my mom, my job, the HOA, breathing down my neck. As I was leaving, he grabbed my wrist and said, "That beam wasn't an accident. Someone wants me dead. After tonight, they might want you dead too." I thought he was paranoid, but there was something in his eyes, certainty, not fear. Natalie, the lawyer, gave me her card, said she'd handle any legal trouble, especially with the HOA. For a while, things got quiet. The HOA stopped bugging me. My boss started treating me different. I thought maybe it was all just hospital morphine dreams until this morning when Natalie called. Theodore's dead Bryce. Heart failure yesterday at 6:18 p.m. Medical examiner says natural, but I don't believe it. He was in perfect health. I need to see you now. You're in danger. I made it to her office in 40 minutes, ran 2 red lights, barely noticed. She pulled the blinds, handed me a photo, my mom 22, laughing with Theodore at some company party, his hand on her back, her hand over her stomach like she was pregnant. December 1988. Natalie said, 9 months before you were born. Bryce Theodore Sterling was your father. DNA tests confirmed it 99.9%. And the will changed 3 weeks ago. I inherited everything Sterling Industries, $2.7 billion. But there was a catch. I had to defend one property, my mom's cabin, for 90 days from any forced sale or seizure. If I failed, it all went to Meredith Hawthorne. That's why Meredith was bulldozing my cabin now. She'd pieced it together, knew if she could take the land, she'd get the empire. Natalie handed me a fat file, Theodore's notes. Photos, bank records, lists of dirty money offshore accounts. Meredith was running illegal gambling racing horses, moving millions, covering it up through fake HOA fees. The cabin wasn't just a cabin. It had mineral rights, a limestone deposit worth $300 million, and the legal access for the whole lake community. No cabin, no deal, those 207 homes dropped to worthless. Meredith's HOA was a scam, a front. She was extorting neighbors, laundering gambling money, and now murdering her way to billions. But she didn't know I was ready. Security cameras hidden in the trees, FBI agents waiting in the woods, Sterling's board watching a live stream. My 82-year-old neighbor Rusty O'Brien, former Sterling accountant, pretending to water his garden, streaming Meredith's every word. Meredith strutted for the crowd. "This eyesore is condemned. 17 violations, danger to the community. All lies. County records proved it. But I let her talk, watched her hang herself. Mr. Coleman's refused every offer. We're building a world-class equestrian club, her way of saying illegal gambling den. The contracts are signed, construction starts today." Bulldozer revved. Guards looked nervous. I asked, "Does Theodore Sterling know about your plans?" She flinched. "The board will make the right choice, properly motivated," meaning she'd bribe them. I called her bluff. "What if there's a will? What if there's an heir?" She laughed it off. Theodore had no children. I stepped in closer. "You should have taken the 50 grand. Now you get nothing." That's when Rusty walked up, showing his phone, live streaming to the board, all 12 members watching. They have questions like about the $3 million missing from the pension fund. Like those horses you're hiding. Security guards started backing away, realizing they were about to help commit a felony on camera. "FBI's been investigating you for 6 months," I said. "Financial records, photos, even conversations with Dr. Kellerman about those heart meds." Suddenly, sirens in the distance. "You called them," she hissed. "Didn't have to. Someone watching this stream did." I showed her the probate court email will confirmed I'm the heir. All she could do was threaten. "You still have to last 90 days. Accidents happen." Then, as agents arrived, she shouted for the crowd. "This man killed Theodore for the inheritance, trying to spin it, muddy the waters." I countered alibis, security footage, proof she was at the scene. They cuffed her. She fought, screamed, her mask shattered. She yelled about the mob, about the races, about 50 million in lost bets. FBI asked if I knew what she meant. Warehouse District, Dock Street, Building 17. I said. Races at midnight, horses and cash inside. Agents moved, whole operation flipped. Rusty put a hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud. But this wasn't over. That night the warehouse exploded, arson a warning. My phone buzzed with threats. Natalie sat beside me on my porch watching the flames. The horses are safe. I told her a friend on the inside tipped off the FBI. But the threats kept coming. You could walk away, Natalie said, disappear. Is that what Theodore would have done? I asked. She shook her head. He'd make a deal with the devil. You're not him. Day after day they tried everything. Arson lawsuits, forgeries, even cutting my truck's brake lines. Every move we countered, neighbors signed affidavits. The judge kicked out the fake HOA's case. The FBI protected the property. Day 7, I found Theodore's letters in a safety deposit box. He wrote every birthday, every Christmas, watched from afar but never spoke. His last letter just before he died, don't let fear stop you. The cabin is where I loved your mother. Don't let them take it. Be better than me. Attacks didn't stop, fraud bombs, imposters claiming the will was fake. My neighbor Rusty found a bomb by the propane tank, saved my life. Day 90, storm shaking the cabin, neighbors, FBI, Natalie all crowded inside as the clock struck midnight. Natalie read the official message, you're the owner now. Sterling Industries is yours. I stepped outside, rain letting up, the sun rising. Meredith sat in a federal cell. The mob's racing operation collapsed. Sterling Industries gutted, rebuilt from scratch. We lost 40% of our value, but in 4 years the company was cleaner, stronger, honest. The cabin still stands, never sold, never mined, now a trust for future generations. Every year we barbecue with the neighbors who helped save it. Rusty's still in the garden. Even the old FBI agents bring their kids. We toast to Margaret, to Theodore, to surviving what tried to break us. And to the cabin, a simple place worth more than all the billions put together. Because when you try to take a man's home, you'd better be ready for a fight. So what would you do if someone threatened to bulldoze everything you love for their own gain? Would you walk away, or would you stand your ground? Drop your answer below. Tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own story. Because sometimes justice means digging your heels in and daring the world to knock you down.